Have you ever known anyone, whether family or friend, to be diagnosed with cancer? The intriguing category on cancer can be divided in its original history, the risk we all face of being exposed, and the truths about the methods of treatments. In America, cancer is the second most leading cause of death, and the rates have steadily increased throughout the years, with millions being affected or have been. The personal turmoil of witnessing my grandmother as a child and my mother now encourages me to learn more about the reasons it exists, the agents associated to the growth of cancer, and ways to eradicate it. By the end, I hope you will be more conscientious about the different signs and symptoms of cancer, the aspects that accumulate the problem, and solutions that are available to eliminate it. Why don't we begin with the antiquity of cancer, starting from the original terminology to more modern descriptions of the ailment? You may be asking yourself, how long has cancer existed? Although the word cancer isn't used, the 8 earliest cases of tumors and ulcers dates back to about 3000 BC, which was discovered in Egypt. According to the American Cancer Society, it's called the Edwin Smith Papyrus, and it's a copy of part of an ancient Egyptian textbook on trauma surgery. The Greek physician Hippocrates, who is considered the father of medicine, coined the term carcinos or carcinoma, which means crab, as his way of depicting ulcer or non-ulcering forms of tumors. The American Cancer Society also states Galen, another Greek physician, who used the word onkos, which is Greek for swelling, to describe tumors. As we move on to the next topic, I will discuss the risk factors that increase a person's chances of developing cancer. As you can tell, cancer is a prevalent problem in our society. As asserted before the American Cancer Society, the average person living in the United States has 1 out of 3 chances of developing cancer, categorizing it as the second leading cause of death in North America. The National Cancer Institute explains, when many studies all point to a similar association between a potential risk factor and an increased risk of cancer, and when a possible mechanism exists that could explain how the risk factor could actually cause cancer, scientists can be more confident about the relationship between the two. The risk factors of cancer can vary depending on a person's exposure of chemicals or other substances, certain behaviors, and even qualities that are unavoidable, such as hereditary cancer syndromes. However, recollections from the National Cancer Institute exclaims cancer-causing genetics changes can also be acquired during one's lifetime, as a result of errors that occur as cells divide or from exposure to carcinogenic substances that damage DNA, such as certain chemicals in tobacco smoke and radiation like ultraviolet rays from the sun. Now that we've learned about the risk of exposure of cancer-causing agents, we can find solutions to one of our nation's main causes of death. Many will go on living their lives without a clue. Some of us are aware that cancer runs throughout our family, but when are we going to start taking action to do something about it? As we know, there are plenty of ways of defining certain cancers as well as their signs and symptoms, but when it comes to finding a cure, it may seem overwhelming or even impossible to be sure what works and what doesn't. As Mayo Clinic clarifies on their article, Cancer Treatments, if cure isn't possible, your treatments may be used to shrink your cancer or slow the growth of your cancer to allow you to live symptom-free for as long as possible. This process happens in three steps. 1 is primary treatment, which is commonly surgery to completely remove the cancer. 2 is adjuvant treatments that use to kill any remaining cancer cells with therapies such as chemo and radiation hormones. Then finally, 3, palliative treatment to relieve side effects, such as which is a combination of the previous 2 and can be used simultaneously with others along with medications. When it comes to finding the right treatment for cancer, you don't always have to resort to the one-size-fits-all modern method that only proves to shrink or slow the progression of cancer cell growth, and determine effective technologies that aren't advocating, which is a small video that I have.
Like education, health is yet another area dominated by big money and corporations. The American Medical Association, for example, is largely funded by the Rockefellers, who use their funding to influence AMA research and decision-making.
The average MD in 4 years of medical school takes one course in nutrition, 2.5 hours in many cases. And the materials used, the curriculum materials, are supplied by the National Dairy Council and the National Livestock and Meat Board and other industries, including the Sugar Association, with products to sell that actually undermine our health in the first place.
Unfortunately, the way the system of medicine is set up, medical education is primarily funded by pharmaceutical companies. So there's a motive to make and sell as many drugs as possible. It's also a very time-effective way of making money for the physician, for the pharmaceutical company, for the whole medical establishment. But it's really perpetuating the problems it was meant to alleviate.
Side effects may include nausea, dry mouth, and constipation.
Decreases in white blood cells, which can be serious. Sexual side effects, diarrhea, nausea, and sleepiness. Can lead to coma or death.
How far will these forces go to make a profit? Would they actually suppress cures for diseases the way they've suppressed free energy technology? Sadly, my research has shown me the answer is yes. One well-documented example is the case of Dr. Royal Rife. In the 1920s, Dr. Rife invented the most advanced microscopes of his time. He also developed a new technique he called coordinative resonance, which was apparently able to destroy cancerous tumors as well as viruses. In 1934, in clinical trials affiliated with the University of Southern California, Rife's treatment was tested on 16 terminally ill cancer patients. Within 3 months, they were all successfully cured. Soon after, a lab testing Rife's technology was burned down and a frivolous lawsuit was filed. Through the efforts of Morris Fishbein, head of the Journal of the American Medical Association, Rife was essentially shut down and ruined, his brilliant and promising work all but forgotten.
It was really hard for me to consider that someone might actually be suppressing cures. And cancer has run through my family like a raging river. I found out that it's all about patents. If a pharmaceutical company can patent and make money from treatment, especially one that we have to keep on using, then that's what we get. Otherwise, we don't even hear about it. It's not just Rife who got shut down. Reen Case had an old Indian Ojibwe formula that was effective. Harry Hoxsey and Max Gerson had natural remedies that worked. But if you go and you look them up, the AMA makes them sound like complete quack.
In a popular science article from June 1931, H.H. Dunn discloses the work of Dr. Raymond Roy Rife, as he suggests that if the electrical makeup of certain dangerous germs is learned, it may someday be possible to destroy them in the human body by applying small doses of electricity. Now that we have acknowledged both common and non-conventional methods of cancer treatments, simply besides surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, we can begin making our own hypothesis in the subject matter, cancer. In conclusion, I hope I've established some information about its origin, the causes behind being exposed to certain agents, and even techniques to treat cancer that have been and will be used for more effective practices. So the next time you, a friend, or a loved one comes across the evil lurking within, just remember that there are explanations to its cause and alternative options apart from the typical solutions to consider when dealing with these invisible killers.